ourselves, I guess, 12 games now on the slate, some weather concerns. We're going to keep you updated on everything that you need to know throughout the course of the next hour. I'm Chris Spags, joined by my pal, the baseball savant, Jake Hari. How are you doing, Jake?
I'm doing well. I don't like the weather issues just because they're very important games, but everyone's got to deal with them. So we'll try to keep you as updated as possible. The rankings just came out, and Alex does have a postponement risk in those rankings, and that's what I go by. So I'll update you guys as those come out. Even for the free people, you might get some freebies, but you should join. Of course, I'm sure Chris will tell you about that.
Oh, yeah, the democratization of weather, though, we do have for free. If you follow at Osmo Weather on Twitter, the boss man himself is taking a look at the various charts. I mean, I guess they're not really charts, the various graphics that you need to look at. He's not actually charting it like a chartographer in the days of Christopher Columbus, but he is doing a lot of things to keep up on the weather. He has a certified degree in as much as his dad has one and is very good at meteorology. So go follow at Osmo Weather for your free weather updates throughout the day. We are not making you pay for those. But of course, everything else you can get as part of our package here at Osmo.com, and use the promo code Live Before Lock to get half off your first month. All the ownership projections, all the rankings, the daily deep dive column, Osmo's top stack percentages. A lot of things are going to make you build better lineups every day. So go check that out. Use that promo code Live Before Lock. All right, Jake. We got a guy up top at pitcher who I want to talk about up front because he's going to be highly owned everywhere. Rich Hill. I still have a good amount of him, but you know what? I've been questioning him all day, and now the ownership is still really high on him, and I'm with it, but I don't feel great about it. How much Rich Hill do you have, given that he's going to be the top owned guy, I think, on every site now?
Let me see what I got in my last crunch on Hill. I think, let's see. Yeah, I got him. I got him only about 10%. I think that's going to come up though as some games like I crunched before we came out with postponement risk on the Boston game with David Price. So I think I'm going to get more than that. I'll probably get in the 20, 18 to 25% range, somewhere in there for Hill. Hard to argue against him here at 10-8 on DK. Just a really low implied total against him. He's got strikeout upside. We haven't seen a lineup for the Mets, but the righties don't scare me that much for a guy like Hill. And they were talking on the deeper dive about him not going deep, deep into games, but like he's a guy that can get you 7-8 strikeouts in limited innings. So I don't think strikeout upside is the issue. There's not a ton of studs in this slate, so I like the call on Hill. How much were you getting of him?
So I think I'm between 20 and 25% right now, so just slightly under the field, and I'm okay with that. I would actually prefer to come in a little bit lighter, but I think just the flow of how the rosters worked and how everything kind of came together, I didn't like anybody more. And now that David Price is off the table too, or at least we're thinking that he is mostly off the table. I didn't get there either, so or I couldn't go there rather instead. So Hill is a guy I ended up with more of than I wanted. I think the righties here are dangerous. Pete Alonso has been filthy versus lefties on the year. He's got a 420 ISO. It's a limited sample size, just under 60 at bats for Alonso. But a 420 ISO after that long is noteworthy. Also 165 WRC plus. He does strike out 37.5% of the time versus lefties, so that is noteworthy. But a 9% home run rate too. You have Ramos as well, who's got a 5% home run rate, a little bit above that. Conforto can also hit lefties. Even JD Davis has enough power to take guys out of the park. And Rich Hill gives up home runs. That is one thing he's done historically. He's done it especially this year at a 5.5% rate. I just don't think Hill is like some lock play. I think his strikeout stuff has been there, but I think people are looking at the Mets aggregate team numbers and they're like, oh, there's strikeouts there, but really like a lot of dangerous power for, I think, going against Hill. And it scares me enough, right? I have a little bit of Hill and I have a little bit of going against Hill.
Yeah, I think that's fine. It's always fine to leverage against the chalky pitcher. And you mentioned Pete Alonso, who's a guy I've liked more and more as he's starting to hit more and more home runs. Wilson Ramos at a catcher position, that'd be a nice way to get leverage, assuming he bats cleanup. So I don't think it's bad to target against Hill. He's almost always chalky when he's at home because the run total against him is so low, and people rightly are attracted to that. But yeah, I don't think there's an issue in hedging against him in some lineups. I'm certainly going to have some Mets mini stacks here and there.
What about the other high-priced pitchers? Who would you say is a pivot? Because I think that Matthew Boyd's an interesting pivot, but also one that comes with his own risk. I mean, he's been better, I think, than Hill on a numbers basis, but in a park which is going to allow some home runs, and I think, he too is not completely errorless, where he does give up a lot of fly balls, which I think could be problematic out in Baltimore. But who would you say, I guess, would be the pivot that you have the most of to Hill?
I like Boyd quite a bit, so I like that call. He's top 30 in MLB in whiffs per swing rate, but I'm actually not getting, and it's an Orioles team that they do have some strikeouts, maybe not as many as years past, and there are a bunch of righties in here, so not a super easy match, but Boyd's just been so good at missing bats so far this season, so I don't have a problem with him as a pivot off of Rich Hill. The other guys I'm getting are kind of these mid-tier / lower price guys. So I got a bunch of David Price. Like I said, that's obviously going to all but go away depending on how we feel about this Boston game. It looks very, very dicey right now. So I don't even know if I can advocate for playing David Price at this point. But I'm getting to some Max Fried. I'm getting to a bunch of Dylan Bundy on the other side of Boyd. Either of those two guys you're heavy on?
Yeah, so Bundy, I'm with you on. I think he looks like a strong play. I think he too is a guy who I think the matchup here. So Baltimore's park has been a top 2 hitting park on the year. And wait, where'd they go? I just had them in front of me. And I think Bundy's swinging strike stuff has been there as well. But he also does give up home runs at a rate. So like his swinging strike stuff has been, well, actually, I guess as good as last year, but still good overall relative to the rest of the slate. A 12.6% swing strike rate. Also not giving up a ton of hard contact this year, which is 26%. But he has given up a 5.4% home run rate, which is right with where he was going back to last year as well. That's a really long sample size, almost 1,000 batters faced going back to last year. So like he's just the guy. There's some positives, some negatives. Like I think it wouldn't shock me if there are some home runs against him, and the hope is that he doesn't get taken out or that he does enough damage. Maybe the bullpen is what gives up the production. But I think Bundy's not a sure thing here, and he's being owned like he's a sure thing relative to Dylan Bundy standards. Almost 30% ownership on DK.
Yeah, it is expensive. I mean, you're paying a hefty ownership tax on a big slate for Bundy, so it's understandable to be worried about him. I mean, he's a guy who's got as like many home run problems as anyone over the last couple of years that we play in MLB DFS, but he just can miss bats. And in a 1-game sample against a team that K is, I think they're in the top 2 still versus righties, around 26%. In the Detroit Tigers, like it's hard not to be on both sides of that one as well. And then the bats against him are so cheap, so you can easily make a case for playing Bundy and or the Tigers bats against him. If I just had one lineup, I would probably be more geared towards playing Bundy. Where would you be at if you just could play one?
Well, because I mean, knowing the ownership on him, I guess I might be more inclined to take a shot at stacking up a little bit. And then, you have Goodrum and Stewart there going to be hitting from the left side of the plate. And Bundy is appreciably worse against hitters going from the left side with a 1.7 whip compared to a 1.13 whip. Also giving up 11.4 hits per 9 compared to 7.7 versus righties. So the lefties should have a little bit of an advantage. Honestly, in a 1-game lineup, I probably would just go away from Bundy, or like a single lineup rather. I think I'd probably go away from Bundy entirely. But I get it. Like he's got the upside though. I think that's the thing is at that mid price. Like, I mean, if you're going him or Trevor Richards, I think who would you prefer? I probably favor the upside of Bundy, but Richards feels like a safer play. So I guess I might go Richards in cash, but Bundy in tournaments. But how do you think that split would work for you with cash and tournaments?
I think I would probably go towards Richards in cash. 8,200 against the Giants team with almost a full run lower implied total. Better park to pitch in Miami for Richards, and Richards doesn't have the kind of home run issues that a guy like Bundy does. So I think for those reasons, I would go to Richards. But for GPP, I think you can't really go wrong with either. I like both of those guys quite a bit.
Yeah, I just think the strikeout upside's a little bit higher for Bundy, but in terms of who's going to give up more home runs, I would say I would think Bundy is a shoe-in to win that bet overall because obviously the park going to favor home runs and Richards in a park that doesn't favor home runs and generally doesn't give up as much as Bundy does. But yeah, I think in terms of upside, I get the logic for Bundy. It just feels like a slate. Like, I mean, and granted, that's baseball in general because, at the best hitters are still failing 70% of the time. We say that's a lot of times on the channel. But I think this slate in particular, there's a lot of guys who I'm like, all right, I could see the value in you, but also I could see how this could really go south. Like even Strasburg, who's been, I think, elite in terms of strikeout stuff on the year. Going into Atlanta, it's going to be a nice hitting situation going in Atlanta. And in Atlanta, obviously a team who can hit anybody as well. Like there really isn't anybody I would consider a shoe-in today. And I think that's sort of, I guess, where the opportunity is, but also where you're probably sweating more than you need to when you're making lineups.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's not a great pitching slate. It's just not a great pitching slate at all. So, like you can make a case for a bunch of these guys, but if you just want to go away from some of these chalkier options at the top, like the Hills and the Bundys, the Richards, Marco, like there's other guys in the price ranges around them. So like Price would be a guy I would like to go to, but again, not sure what's going on there exactly with the weather. I don't know if I want to risk it on a game with 12, 13 other games, depending on what site you're playing on.
Anybody else you're getting a lot of? I mean, I have some Marco Gonzalez, but he's another guy who's not. It's more of a price thing for an SP2. And I'm playing on an SP2 site. Jake, you're primarily playing DraftKings 2 tonight too, right?
Yeah, I'm playing DraftKings, and then I woke up right away and I got in the Yahoo tournament. So my 10 lineups are in there, rig free, pretty good stuff. So low dollar, but through 10 lineups in there. So mostly DK.
Yeah. So we're both playing on SP2 sites primarily today, and of course FanDuel slate. When does FanDuel slate lock? It's soon, right? Like 20 minutes.
Yeah, 20 minutes. So do you know what's going on over there with the Casey? Have you heard?
No, I don't. I feel like I saw things on Twitter going across. It seems like a million different things have changed for them today. But if you want to update the people, I guess, on what they should be expecting on FanDuel, go ahead.
So I was considering playing over on FanDuel today, but they're doing this thing where if the game starts before 8:10 Eastern, it will not count. I believe that's right. And then if it starts after 8:10 Eastern, it will count. Like it doesn't make any sense because they're doing the rest of this suspended game or whatever. I don't know what's going on. So for me, it's too big of a headache to try to want to play over there. It's not like I'm playing Awesemo volume where I need to play full volume on every site every day. So just a pretty easy decision for me to kind of avoid there. DK and Yahoo only today for me. Outside of a free entry I got on FanDuel. So whatever.
Okay. So keep talking because I think my mic may have just screwed up somehow. I don't know how.
Oh, really? Yeah, you're...
what is going on?
I don't think we can see you right now. Oh, there we go.
Okay.
You're
there
back.
we go. I don't know what just happened there. Yeah, just all of a sudden was like, yeah, your stuff switched, and even though everything's connected and fine. All right, whatever. Yeah, and there's a game on there which I am not playing either. Well, I guess technically that game that's being potentially delayed is one that's not on DraftKings now. The Kansas City game is one which DraftKings was going to have and now doesn't have. Isn't there also a Pittsburgh game that's on FanDuel that we don't have on DraftKings?
The San Diego Yankees game, that's where it starts, 6:35 Eastern. Pitt Cincinnati is the other one that starts 5 minutes after that. So the two early games are on it. It's a 15-game slate on FanDuel tonight. So I don't know. It's just too confusing.
Well, either way, your lineup's locked FanDuel at 6:35 Eastern, so be prepared for that. That's coming up soon, and we'll have some ownership updates and regular projection updates until then. Let's see. All right. Boy, a lot going on in the chat, huh?
Yeah. I see YouTube chat pretty testy today. I don't know what's going on.
I see people being hidden. I don't know why, but I'm sure there's. Yeah, just don't be jerks. We're back from a long weekend, guys. Everybody be positive. Be nice. Hit that like button. Positive energy helps everybody out here. We're making lineups here to close things out. I mentioned Marco Gonzalez fast, and he's a guy who I mentioned as just because he does work price-wise. Is he somebody you're getting a lot of here going against a Texas team who's pretty bad versus lefties?
Yeah, I'm going to get to some Marco. I think Adam said it best in the deep dive today, is just that he's a better real-life pitcher than DFS pitcher in that he doesn't get a ton of strikeouts. You're looking for kind of an efficient outing here, and he is a full-run favorite almost in a decent pitcher's park. Not a perfect matchup against a team with a lot of power, basically anywhere, with guys like Joey Gallo and Chiwo Mazara have power. Asdrubal Cabrera and Odor are swinging for the fences as well. So it's not a perfect play by any means, but at under 7K, I do get to a good amount of Marco here. What about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, not as much as I thought I would earlier in the day because I think I had enough money and just some of the stacks, I guess, that I ended up being a little cheaper because I went a little bit lighter on Colorado in part because we do the show and I try not to really change a ton during the show if I can avoid it. And I think the cold weather in Colorado and the team totals there seem great. But overall, the cold weather, potential rain issues, I think that spooked me off enough where I haven't been there as much as I thought I was going to be earlier in the day. So I didn't need the Marco savings quite as much as I thought I would. I was able to get like the Trevor Richards tier, Dylan Bundy in a lot of lineups. So I wasn't there as much. But obviously, if you are trying to get that game in, if you're also trying to play the Boston game, which is another weather concern game, those bats also very high priced. But the top five there are about as good as any top five you'll find on the slate. So what are you doing weather-wise, Jake, so far for your lineups?
I'm going to crunch right now in front of everyone, so they'll see, but I am factoring weather into the projections. So, like these teams with like a 50+% chance of postponement on a huge slate like this, they're just not really going to come up for me if I get a couple stacks of like if we have Colorado at a 50% chance to postpone and I get a couple Colorado stacks, I'm not going to take them off just because they're so high upside and stuff, and that'll probably decrease their ownership. But right now, it looks like the Boston game is kind of out of the question for me. And then who's the other one I'm thinking of here? Obviously the White Sox game. You're not playing that on DK. Anyways, I think Yahoo's doing the same thing with the White Sox game as FanDuel is. But yeah, it's basically just Boston right now. Coors going to get a little bit of a bump down for me, but just a small chance of postponement right now in our projections. So I'm close to playing that one straight up, but going to have a little bit of decreased ownership as to what I had on the crunch before I came on here.
Okay. Yeah, so that's pretty much where I am. I ended up a little bit less on Colorado than I thought I would just because of the weather and my concerns about that one. Actually, looking at the Texas totals kind of come up a little bit on Marco, which makes me not the all right.
I think
not that big of a deal, but
Seattle's total came up. I think the total overall just came up. I think more of that went to Seattle.
Okay, yeah, because like I have on my sheet, I have Texas at 4.2 implied runs, and on the site I'm looking at now, they're at 4.6. So I don't know if there was a big jump in the last hour or something, or if I just I don't know if I just missed an update somewhere in there.
All the lineups are out.
Yeah, all the lineups are out now. So yeah, if you are waiting for all the lineups like Jake was to do your crunches for the day, go check them out now. We just got the Mets lineup in, and in fact, that Mets lineup there. So again, my case to go against Rich Hill today, I'll make it just real fast. Counselor, if I may approach the bench. I'm going to say JD Davis. So 3.4% home run rate versus lefties. Rich Hill, again, giving up those home runs, even though he is a guy who can't strike people out. He's given up pretty decent contact across the board. So righties in particular, giving up 45% hard contact. So I think Davis, Alonso, and Ramos, I think all those guys in that grouping. And then Conforto also getting bumped up a bit. And he actually is a guy can hit lefties pretty well. 217 ISO versus lefties. He does make a little bit less in terms of hits. Batting average down to 249 going against the fellow lefty. But I think he can do enough versus lefty where I wouldn't be scared off of Conforto. I find forcing a 5-man might be a little bit hard, though I guess you can maybe make a case for, taking a super cheap Pechavaria or maybe Carlos Gomez. I'm not as into those guys, though. I think the 2-mans and 3-mans and 4-mans would be what I would want the most. And I just think Hill can give up enough production to a couple guys, even if he doesn't give up like a 5-man stack worth of production.
I agree. I don't think you need to full stack that. I think the most I'd probably go for the Mets is 3. But more likely it'll be Ramos, Alonso, JD, some mixture of 1 or 2 of those guys.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. People in the chat asking, is the Baltimore game safe? That is one I haven't had on my radar as any concerns today. I think it's just cloudy there, but mostly warm. But Jake, have you seen anything with Baltimore?
I have not seen anything with Baltimore, so I'm playing that one straight up. We just got an update as I was saying that, so I'll see if there's anything that Alex is worried about, but looking at it right now, yeah, he's not concerned about it, it sounds like.
Yeah, so we're up to 10% chance of postponement for Boston and a 10% chance for Colorado as well. And those are the only ones on the slate that we now have for sure access to. So it doesn't include like that Royals game and the White Sox and any of those other ones that we talked
about. Only 10% for Boston. That's actually I'm not going to get as little price as I expected. I mean, he'll get a bump down for sure, but I'm pretty sure we had it at over 50 a couple updates ago. So
yeah, he's in a weird, like on DraftKings, I just think he's in a weird price here where he's kind of on an island there because, I mean, I don't want to pay a ton for Pivetta, who's been pretty bad like all this year. And maybe he'll be better now that he's getting back to the team and he's had some time away to maybe clear his head or whatever. But I mean, his stuff has been brutal. So I'm not trying to pay him. I would have played more price, to be honest, if I knew that our postponement chances would be that low. But that game has been read on all the other sites throughout the entire day. So that kind of spooked me enough.
Yeah. So interesting development in the Boston game for the meteorologist named Alex Baker. That's his second job, as if DFS isn't enough of a full-time job for him playing every slate. But yeah, that's actually good news. So I'm glad I'm going to stay on price just a little bit. And then hopefully we can play Plesac for 4,500. I know it's not a good matchup, but he's 4,500 and fully stretched out. So those two things happen on a slate like this with expensive bats I want to pay up for. And it's not just Coors I'm talking about. It's a bunch of other teams that are expensive. Yeah, he's going to be in my pool for sure, and I'm going to get quite a bit of him, I would imagine.
Yeah, I would have had some Plesac too for sure. I mean, I think the thing with him is the price you're paying for him. You're paying for basically an opener's price, and he's a guy who's fully stretched out. And he's been pitching. I mean, pitching in Double A and Triple A this year, but he's had decent results. I think he had 56 strikeouts and 57 innings or something like that. I'm just remembering offhand. So he's gotten decent results, and it certainly doesn't hurt. This is his first major league start, so maybe not not having seen him before will be an asset in some way. But I still, yeah, I think if you're willing to go there now, now that we have some postponement risk, that's not terrible. I think going to those guys might be logical. Go to both Plesac and the Boston Stack, because the Boston Stack, they're either going to murder Plesac or they're going to have a tough day. And I think probably very little in between.
Yeah. So again, not a good matchup, but you're $4,500, expensive bats all over the place. Even if you don't talk about Coors, like Milwaukee, Minnesota, I am really interested in bats in that game. If you want to go with Texas against Marco, that's an interesting leverage stack. And, like Bellinger's super expensive. You've got some really expensive bats on this slate that are in good spots. So like a $4,500 pitcher should be on your radar, even if it's not a good matchup.
Yeah, I would agree. I think if you can afford the bats with him in a way that you probably can't with a lot of these other guys, and unfortunately, that is the case. Looking at our home run sheet, I don't know what this update is that we have here. Oh, did you guys do them on Monday? Is that why?
Last night, yeah, we had live before lock, so Josh and I
did. We? I think you had a strategy show, but not live before lock.
No, we had a normal schedule.
Oh, well.
Yeah, no, I found out too. I guess we didn't really talk about it, so I just assumed we were just doing strategy. But no, we did the normal schedule. We had no deeper dive. That was the thing.
Okay. Did anybody get a home run yesterday? Gallo, Yelich, and Moustakas?
I think Yelich went 0 for. I don't think Moustakas went yard, and I didn't hear about Gallo.
And Joey Gallo's Josh's guy, so we could just safely assume that he didn't do it.
Yeah, I think Josh would have told us.
And if he did, I'm sure Josh will chime in. No, he was 0 for yesterday too, so we're clear there. All right, so no home runs yesterday. That's good. See, I hate when we time it out like this because now we have 3 minutes, and like I don't want to get into stacks before we do home run picks, but it's too early to do home run picks. What do we do, Jake?
Let's see. Anything change with the ownership projections? I had the night ownership projections up. So I think actually an interesting thing to do would be if you're heavy on Rich Hill or like one of these late slate guys in the main slate, like Hill is going to be 65, 70, 80% owned in the night slate. So I am playing the night slate. They do have a mini max for that, so I entered it, and I'll just crunch after the show. But I think it'd be interesting to just kind of fade Rich Hill on the shorter slate just because you get so much leverage if you take a couple Mets bats in your late slate lineups.
Yeah, and I support that on the regular slate too. So I definitely support that for the night slate. And I think, yeah, in particular for the night slate, that would be a direct point of leverage. And I think one that, on paper, I think it fully supports it that he does give up home run production. Even when he has his best days, he does give up a home run or two. Just one of those guys. So yeah, I think that's a perfectly good late slate approach.
We've got the niche slate ownership projections. So if you can't play every slate or you like playing the smaller slates, we got you covered over here at Osmo.com.
Yeah, use that promo code live before lock. We are honestly the premier site for night slate content. Our senior management team and our founding team have always been killers of night slate since I started with the company. And something about having the ownership projections and being able to leverage them accordingly will help you out a lot. And that is something we specialize in. So go check that out with the promo code live before lock for half off your first month. One guy just to hit on real fast before we do the home run picks. Frankie Montas, insanely highly priced. People still like him. I remember the last time we had him on one of our slates for live before lock. We were sort of suspicious of him, and he ended up having a really nice day. I still am not willing to pay $11,000 for Frankie Montas, but I think you could make more of a case with how he's done, I guess, on a longer sample size. But even still, I'm not there. What about you?
No, I don't think I'm going to get to Montas. It's just a terrible strikeout matchup. So 11-3, I think very little K upside here against the team that's striking out, I think, still under 17% comfortably versus righties this season. No thanks on Montas for 11-3.
Yeah, pretty poor projection for him too in terms of value on our site at Osmo.com, of course. So yeah, a litany of reasons I think not to get there. And honestly, I felt this last time that he pitched on a slate and I wasn't super into him. And I think we had the same argument where the team he was going against didn't have a ton of strikeouts, and he still, I think, fanned a bunch of people there. So maybe it continues to work for him. And it just, data-wise, there's nothing I see. I mean, if anything, it seems like he's due to negatively regress, but sometimes that just happens for some guys, and maybe it'll go on forever. Who knows?
Yeah.
Jake, all right, it's that time. We're at the halfway point of the show. Home run picks, scoreboard update. It is now EMAC in sole possession of first place with 10 on the year. Josh right behind him. And also EMAC has made the least picks. He's made 28 on the year. So good for EMAC, a very strong ratio for him. Josh, number 2 with 9. And Jake, you and I are tied now with 7, but it's taken you 4 more tries to get there. So you've been just chopping out in the cages every day. I'm trying to pick my spots. But
I'm Russell Westbrook, volume shooter. Volume shooter.
Who do you want to go with? I'll let you go first.
All right. I think I have to go with a team that I'm going to be heavy on. So I took Yelich yesterday. I'm going to take someone on the Brewers here. I think today I'm going to go with Yasmani Grandal.
Okay. I like that pick. It comes up a lot for me in the optimizer. I could say that.
Me too. Trust me.
I'm going to go Bryce Harper. I was actually worried you're going to go to the Phillies, but
no.
I like the spot for Harper here. Going against Wainwright is a nice situation overall. Phillies park, positive home run park factors as well. But Wainwright, the main thing, 1.8 whip versus lefty. He's also given up a 3.5% home run rate. And Harper, he's either getting a home run or he's getting nothing. So I think he's the guy I'll go with. And nice value play too. And his ownership has come down a little bit, I guess, throughout the day. Other value opening up. But $4,300 on DraftKings, I think, given Harper's potential, I think it could be a nice day for him.
Yeah, I mean, I love playing. Is it $4,300 or $4,500 Harper? Whatever it is, he's underpriced.
43.
I know his batting average or whatever is down, and people freak out about that. But he's a guy who still has massive power, even if he's not connecting as often as you'd like him to. Still got those spike scores in him.
People are saying there is thunder in Philly right now, and I still don't think. I mean, we don't have the game as a postponement risk, and I haven't seen enough to be worried about it. But yeah, I won't take a backup yet. But if we get closer to the hour and it looks like it's getting worse, then I'll swap somebody else in, I guess.
Yeah, right now we don't have anything for that game, so I'm about to start crunching right now. Something would have to really drastically change in the next 10 or 15 minutes for me to actually react to that.
Are these guys reading weather reports? Yes, we are. And in fact, that's why we are not concerned about it. I mean, we're concerned about the games that we are actually concerned about, which we've talked about already. The Colorado game, a little bit less concerned as the time goes on. The Boston game, I think we've had scratched off for a while. I think that's getting a little bit closer to playable based on the updates we've gotten recently. But no, we are tracking it, and that's one that's been okay throughout the day. And again, these things are sort of fungible, obviously. But yeah, we also got an update on the Osmo Weather Twitter handle. Boston looks considerably better now. I think there's not much of a chance it will be postponed, according to the boss man. So
certainly a PP risk in Philly. Strasburg is a bust. Wow, Chad is going off today. There's talk that the Philly game might be in bad shape. I mean, I don't know. I'll probably wait for a couple more minutes to crunch and just see if we get a rankings update and see if there's anything that I need to change. But right now, I'm just playing it out. And the weather might look bad in Philly, but apparently it sounds like it's going to be okay as far as it clearing up and them being able to get a game in.
Yeah, I mean, we appreciate the feedback, by the way, from anybody who's local, because we do have people obviously across the country who are sometimes providing helpful updates, but it's all anecdotal until it is, and you got to trust the people who we trust, and that is our team here and the various sites out there that we also check for weather as we go. So yeah, Bryce Harper will still be on my board, and I think that total's actually come up a little bit throughout the day, so I don't know. Let's talk about stacks, though, Jake. Obviously, the Colorado stack going to be one that's popular, but maybe the ownership down a little bit because of some of the weather concerns, but not really, it looks like so far. What are you getting the most, and is it Colorado or Arizona?
Top stack?
Yeah.
Milwaukee, man.
So it's officially Milwaukee. Okay. Give me why.
Just, they were going to go up against Martin Perez. They were priced like it, and, like a good Martin Perez, and now they're just way underpriced against Devin Smelter. You get Braun at 4,400, who was another guy I thought I might pick for my dong pick, but I figured that'd be a little bit too easy. It's actually a pretty good hitter's park in Minnesota. Decent weather, neutral weather, and I just think the Brewers have massive power and they're going on their own. So any more reasons that you want me to fawn over the Brewers?
No, I think those are fair ones. I mean, the Brewers have been pretty good versus lefties on the year, and this particular lineup has a 272 batting average aggregate. .336 on base percentage, also not striking out a ton, under 21%. So yeah, I get it. Now I'm there with you. I mean, I have a little bit less of the Yelich kind of price guys. I think everybody I mostly got in my five mans, unfortunately didn't include Yelich, which always kind of worries me, but I guess I can ride with it. But yes, Smeltzer, I don't know. Obviously, he hasn't pitched in the majors, so I don't know a ton about him offhand. I actually did more looking into Plesac than Smeltzer because Smeltzer's not playable on the slate. But I think anytime you're getting the Brewers in a cheaper price, I think, the Minnesota park factors favor doubles and triples, but are decreases in home runs and in runs production. So I don't know. Maybe that's something to consider. And I think that's, didn't affect my ownership on them. I have a lot of Kane, Braun, Grandal, Moustakas, and Aguilar. I think also some Perez and some Arcia in there just to kind of fill out the full stack. So I'm there with it, but it feels like a spot that, I don't know, like a pitcher, first time seeing him and not a great power park. It might be kind of a bit of a mirage for Milwaukee, but that might just be me trying to find reasons why it wouldn't work instead of why it would.
Yeah, I don't know. They're just projecting out so well now that it's not Martin Perez. So I'm riding with it, and it's looking like it's tough for people to fit them in their lineups because they are going a little bit under owned. So I like that even more.
All right, that's fair. Also getting some spam of MLB streams. Okay. There aren't even any games on. What are you spamming?
Yeah, there are. Those two games.
Oh, I guess they're literally starting right now. Okay, good timing then, spam. Never mind. And we are locked now on FanDuel, I think. So hopefully you got your stuff in. So Smeltzer is good man from everything I've seen. I think he means is good, comma man, and not a good man. But I hope he's a good guy too.
I bet he's a good guy. Yeah.
Who would be your number 2 stack?
Number 2, let me see here. I got a lot of Seattle. I did get a bunch of Detroit as well. But Milwaukee's kind of ahead of everyone else. And then, let's see. Looking like Arizona as well. So I'm more on, more over the field on that side of the Coors discussion. So haven't really crossed them off or anything yet.
So Seattle, getting the projected long reliever Adrian Sampson. Who's the opener?
Chavez.
Okay, so yeah, nothing too impressive with either of those. And yeah, I think Seattle's actually kind of interesting. Like they are getting decently owned. And I think they always kind of screw up on DraftKings because you have a tough situation there. You have to pick Encarnacion or Vogelbach, and they're generally going to be the two most appealing power hitters on the lineup. I mean, there are people who are close, I guess, but those guys far and away do hit the most home runs. I like Seattle actually, and I just didn't get there much, but I could certainly see why you would. I guess why would you go with them relative to some of the other guys with kind of similar implied totals?
With Seattle?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think either Chavez or Sampson are any good. Number one, you're getting cheap prices on Seager, and Malik Smith leading off is one of the better values on the slate. You saw what he could do last night, stealing 3 bases, one time on the base paths. And then you've just got a good combo of power and speed with these top 5 or 6 guys. And I like Narvaez at 4,400. It looks like Seattle's not getting too much attention as far as ownership share goes either.
Okay. So I'll give you one that I have in a similar implied total range who I ended up with more. And it looks like the ownership is actually pretty comparable on them now. But the Astros, so people on the deeper dive, they talked about it where, I mean, relative to other Astros lineup, there's no Correa in there. George Springer's out. I feel like there's somebody else missing who I'm forgetting. But Torino's also not in the lineup, which is not great. But I still think it's a good enough lineup here. And I think Lester is not a guy I'm impressed enough by in terms of missing bats. Like he does limit damage, but he's still above league average in terms of home runs allowed, still giving up a good amount of hits. The xFIP is solid, but the hard contact's been there. So I think people may come off Houston. I wouldn't be surprised if their ownership dropped even a little more. But you have guys like Jack Mayfield there, who is a kind of a career journeyman type, all the 28-year-old guy just getting his first majors action. So that's not a great sign, but still minimum price, and he does have a little bit of pop to him. I think Derek Fisher, too, a guy, a pretty good power versus lefties. And also I met him in person once we hung out when he was on the Phillies, and a very lovely guy, and not very tall, though. So if you want to hold that against him, you can. And everybody else here, though, like I'm interested in the lineup. Like I think people are going to jump off Houston because they're, not missing, they don't have the great guys. Still have Bregman in there. You still have Brantley, who's not great versus lefties, but he's still one of the bigger hitters on the team. I think there's some logic going to the Astros, so I ended up there more. What about you and the Astros?
I'm not really ending up on them all that much. They're just not. It's just a really watered down lineup. And while I love picking on Lester The guy you kind of want to do it with is this 2K guy, Jack Mayfield, but everyone's going to play him, and that's going to pull up Astros stacks to a spot where I don't think they should necessarily be. So while they're not crazy over-owned or anything, they are coming in a little bit over-owned on the top stack tool. So I'm trying to not get to too much, or if I do get to them, I'm trying to leave off like one of these crazy cheap guys like White or Mayfield.
Okay, which seems like a fair approach. I think to me, it's just like you're basically paying Miami prices for a team who's, in a decent hitting park. I mean, overall, it's been better this year, not for doubles and triples, but in general, I think not the worst. And I just, I think Lester's a guy I'm willing to go against. If he were a little bit higher owned, he might be interesting leverage. But I don't know. I think the Houston team might be a little bit overlooked. And I guess it depends where the ownership shakes out, but we'll find out, I guess, soon enough. What about the Cubs on the other side going against Corbin Martin, who hasn't shown much either?
I barely got to any Cubs. So just a really, really low implied total. Plus you've got 3 guys at 5K at betting 2, 3, 4. Schwarber's prices come up just a little bit. And then I hate the bottom of this lineup against Corbin Martin. So did you get to Cubs? I hear you laughing.
I'm laughing at the chat right now. So here's why we find it hard sometimes to take anecdotal weather information. I live near Boston. It's pouring. Where are you? I'm in Boston. Where is it pouring? It is not near this guy. Like what? So that's why too, like different parts of Boston will see different things, different parts of different cities. So that's why we have to trust the sources we trust. And generally that's going to be the weather sites out there and the Osmo Weather Twitter handle.
Osmo Weather Twitter handle. If Alex is willing to put tens of thousands of dollars on this information, then I am willing to do that as well, and much less money.
Yeah, I agree. But I do have a little bit of Javi Baez. I thought he was a good shortstop play with some pop here. And Corbin Martin, it's a limited sample size. He's only faced about 30 batters from both sides of the plate. But ridden really bad versus righties so far, giving up 10.2 xFIP, 11% home run rate, and 1.9 whip. And versus lefties, he's actually gotten some decent results in terms of strikeouts. But granted, to get like only 30 batters, but he's had 10 Ks per 9 and hasn't given up a home run yet to a lefty. So that was enough for me to go to Baez as a one-off and as a shortstop who's higher priced. And I feel like a lot of people will be paying down for the Jack Mayfields of the world and some other cheap shortstops out there. So that was why I went to Baez.
Yeah, he's just so expensive at 5K against a guy who I think is a decent pitcher when you can pay up for the Brewers or Coors or, either side of the Coors matchup or even like some of these guys on Seattle.
Hold on. Can you share how much owned Will Smith is on DK? I don't think Will Smith is available on DK.
He is 11%.
Wait, is that right? Because I thought he wasn't on the site this morning, and we have him. So I'm pulling, I think, from our ownership sheet. I have him at $5,700 and 11% owned, which can't be right.
Wait, you had him at what? 15?
5,700 and. Yeah, that's not right.
Oh, that was him as a pitcher. So there's a pitcher named Will Smith, I believe.
So, yeah, I think our sheet might be messed up.
Yeah, so he's a catcher for 2,100, they say.
Okay. Yeah. Hold on.
I mean, I'd rather play Darno for a little bit more.
Okay, no, he is available on DK Air right for 2,100. So that's weird. All right, so yeah, we got the prices mixed up on our sheet. I was like, there's no way a guy who I don't think has any sort of sample size is 5,700. But yeah. That makes sense. No Will Smith for me today. And I don't think that would be, even in terms of cheap catchers, I think that wouldn't be one I was trying to get to today.
Yeah, that's fair. Darno, I think, is the clear option for me in that range if I was just making a handful of lineups.
Let's see. Looking at the chat to make sure we didn't miss anything. Oh, Sean V. Baez, LOL, 5 more Ks incoming. Oh, Sean B also said something that I was very incorrect in the last show. I forget what it was. Damn it. Something about somebody's home run rate. He's like, that guy never hits. Oh, Tapia. He said Tapia has no power. And then like you just look at his numbers and he's like above league average in terms of home runs and has like above 200 ISO. Just Sean V. This just says stuff sometimes.
I don't know why, Josh gets so upset about Sean V. I think those takes they add to the show more than take away from them. It's good content for us, regardless. He's
like a cookie monster of takes. He just chews them up and just spits out garbled crumbs all over the place. Like that's what Sean V is. Just spray and just gooey, chocolatey goodness all over us on our various streams.
Very anti-establishment. I gotta appreciate that.
Who else stack-wise are you getting to? So the Braves are also a team I got to, and some people in the chat earlier in the video were talking about how I guess Strasburg has some sort of bad BVP issues in Atlanta, which not something I would check into or be particularly concerned about. But I think he's in a spot here where I don't mind getting to Strasburg because his swing strike stuff has been really good for him this year, in a way which is even better than it was last year. But I think too Atlanta can do some damage here. It's a 90-degree day down in Atlanta, which I think would be obviously benefit the hitters a bit. So I have a little bit both ways here, which I know is the theme of the show, but I do have some full stacks, I do have some mini stacks, and I do have some Strasburg. I think I'm actually pretty even on both, so I can't really give a firm way in one way or the other. Which way would you go, Jake? Would you go pro Strasburg or go with a Brave stack?
I got to very little Strasburg, but I don't think I would need to stack the Braves either. Like, I respect Strasburg a ton. It's actually a decent implied total against him. I didn't realize, it was almost approaching 5 for the Braves. Strasburg, so people say that he's got issues in the heat or whatever, and you could look at a handful of games and I'm sure that's the case. You can look at a handful of games and that could be completely proven false. So I just go by how he's projected, and it's just a tough strikeout matchup against Atlanta. So almost 12K for a pitcher where that's like the cap of how these pitchers are getting priced up this year on DK. So I'd rather not pay that in Atlanta in good hitting weather.
There it is. And just on time, Vince Rodimer, Strasburg can't pitch in the heat. Strasburg easy fade, says Baldy in the oath.
Yeah. It's hard to pitch in the heat. It's hard to pitch in the heat. It's good for hitters. The ball is going to slip. You're not going to get as much, grip on the ball when it's hot and humid. So, yes.
Yeah. I think you can make a better argument rather than the heat thing of just saying that Strasburg may be due for some regression back the other way because his whip, 0.99 down from a 1.12 going back to last year. Swinging strike rate 14.6%, which is up from 12.9% going back to last year's. Chase rate too, up to 38% from 34.4% last year. But I mean, he's good across the board. He's been better across the board slightly, and he hasn't been particularly lucky. Like his BABIP is still in range. So I don't think Strasburg is lucky. I think, a slight tweak or two to what he does, I think can help him out. But yeah, the heat is going to be a problem. I think I think there's a reason why we've seen more aces start to get shelled in recent weeks, and it's because it's starting to heat up in parts of the country. And Strasburg's certainly not immune to that. And I think the warmest day we have on the slate overall.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly what Adam said in YouTube chat. Adam, that's a great comment. 12K for a pitcher against Atlanta doesn't sound ideal no matter who it is. Exactly. Strasburg's been fantastic this season, but just look at the implied total against him for a guy that's been so good. 4.7 runs. It's all to do with the weather, and it's not Strasburg specific in the weather. It's just that when there is warm weather, the ball's going to travel farther. It's just science.
Somebody's saying Thomas Tyner, he sweats a ton in Athens. It's hot. It's okay. So he sweats too much. That's the reason. I think other players also sweat a lot. I think it's not an uncommon issue.
Man, I would be the worst pitcher then in warm weather because I sweat a lot.
Dave asking in the premium Slack, the White Sox game is in the 9th. Do you think that game plays on FanDuel? Jake, do you want to even hazard a guess on that?
I don't want to be responsible for giving an opinion on that. I will just say that I am not playing that game on FanDuel and Yahoo.
Yeah.
It's going to be close. It's going to be really close because Alex said 30 to 40 minutes after. If it's in the 9th right now, who knows what happens. I mean, maybe there's a better chance now that it plays. I have no idea though. I'm not.
Yeah, if you love Giolito or somebody like that, and you want to go there, I think then that's probably worth it. Like if there's a player there who you find or a stack that you find particularly valuable relative to what the field would be, but otherwise I'd be inclined to go away from it just because. There we go. Yes, Sean B. Yes, please check Tapia's stats. He's actually been much better this year. Overall, I think that's sort of the thing is if you love one of these guys, and Giolito, I think you could make a case for, but on DK, I wasn't going to pay $10,000 for him anyway. So that's just what it is. So I wouldn't have seen a reason to go there. And if it were on the slate, and it's not on the DK slate, so it's out of my mind.
All my money rides on you, Jake. That's exactly what I wanted, Dave.
There's another premium Slack question, which I missed before, which I'm pulling up now.
Let's see.
How about the Dodgers as a stack?
I don't have a problem with the Dodgers. They were one that I was noticing was going very over-owned. But now, and you understand why, because Kike is there. You've got Turner, way too cheap. Freeze batting third with the platoon split. And then the only expensive guy really is Bellinger. Taylor at 3,200. So there's just a lot of value there. But in terms of them being the best stack, they're going a little bit overowned. So I like their fillers. I like them as 2 and 3 mans. I'm not crazy about them as 5s.
Okay. Sean, this is the last time I'm going to address this in the chat, but Tapia's power on the year, I'll just give you the numbers. He's above league average is what I said, which means that's enough to have him in a stack. That's the whole thing, is like, you're just trying to find guys who can get you what you need. Yeah, on the year versus a righty, he has a 244 ISO, which is high, a 3% home run rate, which is above league average. And on the year overall, 3.2% home run rate, which is also above league average. So he's above league average. He's in the leadoff spot and he's cheap. So don't disqualify Tapia because Sean B said so. That's all I would say.
Don't disqualify anyone in Coors. You could play Tony Walters in Coors if he didn't get scratched.
Yeah, that is true. There are worse hitters who have hit home runs in Coors recently, within the last like 5 days, in fact. So yeah, I would say that's don't get too cute when it comes to Coors. Like the cold weather there, I think if you want to make an argument, that is a very viable one to make. Also, Emacs pick is in for home run a little bit late, but he's going with Dan Vogelbach. So if you've been tailing Emacs picks, go follow Dan Vogelbach today. That big beefy boy.
Yeah, dude. He's picked Vogelbach a handful of times. I don't know if he's let him down yet.
I'm curious about Emacs model because Emacs been doing well, but some of his guys, he seems like he favors like heavy set first baseman, like slow heavy set first baseman seems to be a real Emacs trend.
I think if you just picked first and third baseman, you'd probably be okay. Just because those guys, a lot of them hit for power. They're bigger people. But yeah.
And to go back to the Dodger stack too, I don't mind them. I think going against Matz isn't something I'm dying to do. Not that he's good by any stretch, but not a guy who I feel like is generally worth targeting against. He does give up some home runs to the right side of the plate, which I think can be valuable. And I do have Kike actually in some one-offs here, but the lineup here didn't really speak to me. And Will Smith, I didn't get to him because apparently the pitcher was on whatever sheet I was pulling from. So yeah, no, not a ton of Dodgers for me, but I think one-off Kike and leadoff in the leadoff spot would be great. And Bellinger too. Yeah, Bellinger can hit lefties as well, so I have certainly no issue with him.
Great.
Don't mind a Dodger stack, just don't love it.
Great value, but there's just a bunch of other spots that I think are way better chances to be the stack you need. So like, take a hitter or 2 or even 3 from the Dodgers, but if that's like your main stack, I don't know if that's the correct approach tonight.
I'll give you one weird stack that I guess it's not super weird because there is some ownership on it, but not a ton. Oakland, I think, is a little bit interesting because they do have an over 5 implied run total. And that seems high too, especially being in Oakland, which does decrease every park factor around. So I think that did jump out to me as maybe like, oh, I should get some of these guys in here because they do have power. And Tropiano, this is his first start of the year, or his first innings overall of the year. And he has given up hard contact in spades over the course of last year, just over 40 or almost under 44%. Of hard contact going to both sides of the plate. And again, that run total seems high for a game in Oakland. So I did get there as a weird one. Any Oakland for you?
Yeah, I mean, I love Matt Olson at 4K and Matt Chapman. So both the Matts at 4K and 4,300. I'm not seeing where I'm ending up on the stack. Let's see where I got them out of 600. Actually, I did get to a bunch of them. Let's see if they get filtered out, though, when I get down to 150. But yeah, I have no problem with Oakland. It's good pricing. The price per implied run total, I think, is very good. Or in other words, points per dollar, I think on the stack is very good. They're one of the better chances at it being the top value stack of the night.
Yep. One other stack we haven't talked about yet, the Minnesota Jakes, who, of course, been hitting well in the year. They are now actually, I think, technically the top hitting team versus both sides of the plate, though that one tends to swap around between the Astros and I think the Rangers for righties and a couple of other weird teams. But the Twins, just across the board, hitting everything. And they are going to be not highly owned on DK. Everybody under 5% ownership across the board. And also going against Zach Davies, who gives up hard contact, gives up some, doesn't strike anybody out at all, just a 6.1 K per 9 rate on the year. Minnesota's interesting, but I didn't get there a bunch today. What about you, Jake?
I want to get to a bunch of them, but like it's really, really tough for a 4 or even 5 man, or a 5 or even a 4 man for them. So like I love the spot for them, but I got to them more as 3 and 2 man just because they're so expensive. Like even if you use Plesac, it's tough to want to stack a ton of Minnesota at these prices.
Yeah, I think the opportunity is there. And, even though Minnesota's been really hitting really well, the park overall hasn't been beneficial towards home runs, just 0.66 for every 1 home run at Minnesota. So they're giving up about a 33% decrease on home run production. Again, hasn't slowed them down, but I think while we're trying to split hairs on which stacks to go with, especially for me playing a max 20, like I tried to make some disqualifiers here and there, and that was enough for me to get off of them. Like, I like Minnesota a lot, but I like them actually as an away team a little bit more.
I think so. Is that for the park factor for this season?
Yep, they
Okay.
are. They give up 0.72 runs for every one run, 0.66 home runs for every one home run, and then 0.86 for something else.
So the only thing I'll say with that, possibly why it's not a great park. I think historically it's been a little bit of an above average park since they moved to Target Field, but I think the reason you're seeing such a low park factor for hitters right now is just because the weather's been so bad in Minnesota. So like early in the season and later in the season, I think once you get to June and July and August when it gets super humid, you might see those numbers start to go up pretty quickly.
Okay, that seems fair. Yeah, they actually have been up in doubles and triples. They're giving up 1.1 doubles for every one and then 1.2 triples for every one. So I don't know, but it did jump out to me because it is all red for the park factors, at least so far on the year. All right. Captain for NBA tonight. There's no NBA going unless you mean WNBA. And if you're asking for that, I am not the guy.
Have you? Yeah, I played WNBA on the first slate. I'm just playing everything lately. So
just trust the projections, Jake.
Exactly. We got projections for it, and or ownership. I will try my hand at it at the very least. Worked out well for me for college basketball. I basically binked the first day of the tournament.
Ooh. There you go. So yeah, use those projections with an all-access pass at awesemo.com. Use that promo code live before lock to get half off the first month. That includes all the sports. I saw somebody, we were getting chirped over our Twitter projections, and then some guy tweeted us today that he won like 20K or something with them. So I would say that wasn't even a beauty in the high beholder as much as it was a guy tweeting about the tournament after one day of the tournament, which seems like a not ideal way to approach a tournament-based DFS sport. But yeah, every sport across the board has been doing well for us. So. And that's not really a tout thing. That's just what the results have been. So go check them out. Use that promo code live before lock for half off your first month. What NBA? Yeah, I don't know what NBA there. I don't even know if there's WNBA today, to be honest. I feel like WNBA is tomorrow, but whatever.
No, there's a showdown slate tonight.
Oh, okay.
Our buddy Seth in chat is a big WNBA fan, and he
there you go.
Does a write up for it.
Kitten Collector in the YouTube chat, which is an adorable name, hopefully live kittens, so that would be more adorable that way. Not an episode of Hoarders situation, but going against Tampa Bay, you got Clayton Richard, doesn't give up a ton of production. Still a 5 implied run total here, so another one that does seem kind of weird. I didn't get there, but the whole picture here kind of jumped out as bizarre to me because Richard, going back to last year, doesn't give up home runs, doesn't give up crazy production, ton of ground balls, keeps it down. I think a worm burner is what EMAC called somebody over the weekend for a guy who gets a lot of ground balls. And I didn't get to Tampa Bay. I really didn't get to Richard either. But if you were to go with Tampa Bay bats going against Richard, Jake, which ones would you think is most appealing?
Yeah, I'm trying to scroll down, I guess scroll up and try to find this. The top guys, so d'Arnaud really sticks out to me at 2,500 as just one of the obvious values. And then I love Avisail Garcia leading off. A little bit expensive for him, but in the leadoff spot, like he's a guy who bats 4th or 5th. That's a pretty big bump in terms of expected at-bat equity. So, yeah, those would be the two guys. Just very obvious value, and then a guy that hits lefties really well in Garcia.
Yeah, I think, for me, it would be Garcia and Pham. I think I actually do have a very, very little bit of Pham. And Richard does give up a 3.1% home run rate to righties, but just a 1.3% rate versus lefties going back to last year. So I would favor the righties here, and I think Pham and Garcia, I think, are okay as a two-man. I'm not crazy about d'Arnaud. I know, he's cheap, but he doesn't really do anything. And even though he's gotten traded to Tampa Bay, I feel like he still isn't really doing anything. So I'm not sure I want to go there. On the year, he's got a 4 WRC plus, which I don't know how big that sample size is, but probably 50 at bats, maybe 60. So he hasn't done a lot since being traded over. So I don't know. I'm not getting to d'Arnaud, but I can see the top two.
Yeah.
Is Freddie Freeman going yard?
Against Strasburg? Yeah, I mean, that would be the guy I think has the best chance to do it against Strasburg.
I'd go Acuna if I had to choose a guy.
Not bad. I hear he's pretty good, even though his contract would say otherwise. He's more.
Let's name one guy we could imagine hitting a home run for every team. Let's go through the slate like that. Yeah, actually, while we're back on this game, I think Washington going against Max Fried a little bit interesting, given the heat there. And this Washington team has actually been good versus lefties. And again, they've rounded into form in terms of health, getting guys back in the lineup. I think Rendon, Kendrick, Soto, Suzuki. I actually think the 3 to 8 man skipping Dozier is a stack that actually did force into a couple lineups because they have a lot of power here. And Fried hasn't given up much power. I probably should respect him as a pitcher a little bit more. But I think the weather maybe favoring these guys a little bit. It interests me because they're priced in a way where nobody's going to land on them. And the only guy's going to be owned is Trey Turner, it looks like, overall. Any Nationals for you?
I did not get to many Nationals at all. I was going to say besides Bryce, I still think he's on the Nationals like every other day. But no, I respect Fried a ton. I'm actually getting to quite a bit of Fried at 8,100 here. He's one of the mid-tier guys I like if you're not going to like a Bundy or a Trevor Richards.
Our guy McCod in the premium Slack asking for the Paul Blackburn of the night. Of course, is the award that goes to the worst, cheapest pitcher who could possibly be in a tournament-winning lineup. Who would be your pick for that today, Jake?
Plesek. It's got to be.
Yeah. Now that we know that game's going to play, I think it's got to be Plesac too. I mean, like he is a starter, and you are paying opener prices, like bad opener prices. So that said, would not be the most shocking if he gave you -10.
For sure.
Yeah, but
it's Boston.
Yeah. Going against Boston, not the best opening spot for a guy, but maybe if you are going to get past Boston, that being your first game on tape in the majors, maybe that's how you do it.
Yeah, no kidding.
If you have any other questions, drop in the premium Slack or the YouTube chat. I'm scrolling for everything now. Somebody asking Jake, who would be your best value guys on the night? Obviously, that's all relative to stacks, but I guess which value guys are you getting the most?
Malk Smith is looking like Seager, Bryce Harper, Domingo Santana. I don't know if he's cheap even, but Keston Hiura at for the Brewers as part of that stack, and then looking at Marcus Semien at 4K as well.
Yeah, for me, I mean, just straight value in terms of a cheap guy. Jack Mayfield at 2K, I think, is still interesting enough given the dual possession eligibility and the fact that he's okay enough to, I think, be worth some exposure. So, yeah, he would be the guy I would say jumps out clearly to me as a value guy overall that I don't mind getting to. But especially now the ownership's coming down a little bit, I think he's got some potential here.
Mm-hmm.
And again, honestly, in Darno, too, like he is a value guy. I think he sucks, but I could see why people might want him at 2,500 a catcher.
Yeah.
How's Alex's keyboard? Very loud. I don't know what he's doing.
Did you hear that?
It's. I think he has it mic'd in a way where it's picking up internal sounds because I can hear his mouse clicks really thoroughly too. But Alex is growing as a producer, so I think there's something in the settings that he probably needs to tweak. But yeah, that's also genius at work too. That's the price you pay for a man who's working hard and for his keyboard literally on fire from typing at that speed and power.
He's got more to worry about than how loud his keyboard is.
True.
It wasn't taking away much from the stream anyways. So
yeah, he's got isolated power of over 400 with his keyboards.
Yeah, for sure. His hard hit rate on that keyboard, man, that is up high.
Poor keyboard giving up a ton of hard contact. Just getting shelled every day. All right, now we're close to lock, Jake. Anything you feel like you didn't cover adequately in terms of your lineup build or in terms of what we talked about on the show? Anybody that you're getting that we haven't hit on at all?
I'm getting to a bunch of like shed long. So I must be getting to a ton of Mariners just as a cheap guy. And same thing with JP Crawford. So a lot of my Mariners stacks are getting down to that 8-9 spot. So that's interesting. Other guys that I'm getting to that I didn't expect to get to a ton of. Narvaez is actually my highest owned catcher right now. And then everyone else is kind of who we talked about. Brewers, a ton of Brewers, the value guys. Some Coors, more Diamondbacks. It's looking like a few more Diamondbacks. And that's really about it. What about you? Anyone you are missing out on?
I kind of wish I had more going against Rich Hill at this point, just because that's my take for the day that I'm sticking with. I think he gets some strikeouts here, but I bet he gives up. If I had to wager it, I think he gives up more than the Vegas total of runs within the first 2 innings. So that's one I kind of wish I would have. It doesn't mean he can't be a decent value because I think the slate's weird enough where he could still find a way to 20 fantasy points. But I kind of wish I had a little bit more smatterings of the righty hitters and even Conforto.
Wow. If you think he's given up more than 3 runs in the first couple innings, then you should have been hammering the Mets.
I know. I didn't. I look because I just couldn't justify the full stacks. I think more than anything. Also, somebody's saying there's a new Angels pitcher. Is that true?
Tropiano?
Yeah, it's not a new pitcher. He's been the pitcher all day.
I don't think I played any Tropiano, so I think I'm probably good on that front. But just keep an eye out for that if indeed that is the case.
Yeah, I thought he was saying that they swap pitchers, but I can't see that anywhere else.
He's gonna open. For Tropiano, so we should.
Okay. So yeah, Tropiano's still the projected long reliever, and same thing still applies there. A ton of hard contact for Tropiano to both sides of the plate. So I think Oakland's still a viable stack. And again, that team total does seem like one of the weird ones to me, where it's over 5. Tropiano not that bad that it seems like he should be giving up that much. E-Rush, before we lock, we are locked by the way, but he's asking who would be your top starting pitcher on the day.
The guy I got the most of is actually Plesac. But just over 20%. So I got a bunch of guys in like the 20% range. Richards, Plesac, Bundy, Yarbrough, looking like Samardzija as well. Max Fried, all those guys like 15 to 25%. So I'm very spread on pitcher just because it's a bad slate for pitching, I think.
Yeah, there are no sure things on today's slate, no matter how the ownership may break down. And if you missed the home run picks, by the way, so I'm keeping Bryce Harper in. I think that's my official thing. I'm sticking with it. We didn't get any updates that made me scared of Philly. So Bryce Harper is my home run pick. Yasmani Grandal is Jake's. And Emac chiming in as the number 1 man on the leaderboard. He's taking that big, beefy boy Dan Vogelbach as part of his Pokemon-like collection of all the heavy-set first basemen that hit a home run for him. Emac is doing it. Thank you guys for watching. Hit the like button on the way out. Jake, what are you doing tomorrow? Your strategy show? You got that?
No shows for me tomorrow. Just behind the scenes stuff. But you are on with Josh tomorrow night, right?
Yeah. I am on live before lock every night this week through Friday, and then Jake will be in on the weekend, so we'll be keeping it going here. Subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when we go live. Also, if you haven't been watching the deeper dive every day, a lot of you are, but if you're not, Alex is on there Monday through Wednesday of the week as well, so go check that out as well. Giving some great tidbits, giving a lot of great keyboard noises as well. So two ways that he's really adding value to the conversation. But it's an interesting show. Like honestly, I've always enjoyed the deeper dive, but hearing Alex in the mix too, it's sort of a different view on things where you get to hear kind of, and Adam will volley it back with him and Lofty too. And I think they get in some spots where they ask him interesting questions. And I think sometimes, they work some stuff out in that process. So a show very much worth checking out. So subscribe and know when we go live there. Anything else you want to hit on, Jake, before we call it quits?
I agree. I think that shows, give it some time. If it's a little bit rough right now, it's tough to bring in a third person. So
Sure.
I think it's been great. So I love all the
Unless one of those people is eating pizza rolls and dying, then it's real easy to leave them.
That's not too difficult to just watch someone eat pizza rolls for 20 minutes straight and then not be able to talk afterwards. But when you're trying to give information, it's a little bit different.
Yeah, Dave in the premium Slack asking, when are we getting the pizza rolls again? I would assume not anytime soon, but I'm sure some sort of wager will come up. We need to think more about that because we did enjoy that. And obviously, if you weren't watching on Friday, it is on the channel still where we had our Josh Engelman eating 100 pizza rolls. And it was a very fun stream, one of our more fun live before lock shows. Really good contributions from everybody. Even though it was a holiday weekend, it was a viewership record for the season for us on the show. So we appreciate all of you guys tuning out or turning in and turning out and all of the various spins on that. But we'll do something else fun soon. I just don't. It's got to come organically. Like I don't want to force it. I don't want to make Jake eat 100 donuts, even though that'd be hilarious.
That would not happen. I would throw up at
gluten. That's
12.
Right. You're not a gluten guy, so you would be in dire straits.
Oh no, I know. I can eat it. I just try to limit it.
Well, but even limiting it, like your body doesn't get used to it, and then that's where things mess up.
Exactly.
Yeah. But we'll figure it out. We'll have something soon. But we appreciate all you guys tuning in. Hope you had a lovely Memorial Day weekend. Hope you got some time to yourselves. And we'll be back again tomorrow. So good luck.